Did you know that Assassin's Creed 3 could have featured a full final monologue by Connor that you can actually listen to? Or that devs had considered including co-op for Assassin's Creed 1? Or that Juno was meant to have some kind of role in Assassin's Creed Origins? Well, if you didn't, we do have the content for you. Welcome to ATA Untold Memories. This is a new series of videos here at Access the Animus where we'll delve into all the cut or alternative content of the various Assassin's Creed releases to show a new perspective on the creative process behind the Assassin's Creed games, and especially what might have been but wasn't. From official concept art and statements to information, videos and more that has been found by some very dedicated fans over the years and that you might have never seen. In the first episode of this new series, we're going to have a look at the early version of the introduction cutscene of the multiplayer mode of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and an early version of the final cutscene of the ending of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag that were shared by YouTubers Leader V2, the aforementioned idea of including co-op in Assassin's Creed 1, and finally, thanks to Kyriatsu, we will be showing the early version of one of the missions of Assassin's Creed 3 with some cut activities that were still referenced in the main game, and finally a cut monologue again from Assassin's Creed 3 where Haytham Kenway reflects on how he reconciles killing with who he is, in a stunning performance by voice actor Adrian Huff. So let's not wait any longer and let's dive into the first episode of ATA Untold Memories. And we start with the introduction cutscene for the multiplayer mode of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and its early version that was shared by YouTubers Leader V2, and of course you can find their original video in the description. In Brotherhood, the multiplayer mode was introduced for the first time in Assassin's Creed as an initiative organized by Abstergo called Animi Training Program, where Dr. Warren Vidic would supervise several Abstergo recruits who would go in the Animus in a sort of shared simulation or common virtual training, if you will, where they would relive the lives of some Templar characters in the Italian Renaissance and they would try and hunt and kill each other, all with the objective of having the bleeding effect kick in and promptly turn them into proper field agents to deploy for missions in the modern day. So this was the introduction cutscene to all that, and we'll show it first in its early version shared by Slither V2 before comparing it to its final version from the game.
Anima, as far as the eye can see, it's a beautiful sight, at least from up here. But I digress. Our engineers have spent countless hours perfecting this top-secret, state-of-the-art facility in order to house our most ambitious project to date. We have uploaded DNA from dozens of our most remarkable subjects and distilled the essence of their unique abilities. You stand in this room today because you have served us impeccably, I say, loyally. Now it is time for you to become so much more. Your first time in the Animus will be disorienting. A few of you will panic. To adjust, focus on your training program. Some of you will be in teams protecting or desyncing a VIP, but most of you will be on your own. Be ready to receive assassination contracts while being targeted simultaneously. We feel it keeps you on your toes. Once you enter these machines and the transfer is complete, you will have the skills necessary to crush the remnants of the Assassin Order, ending this war once and for all. Any questions? Good. Let's begin. Animi, as far as the eye can see, it's a beautiful sight, at least from up here. But I digress. Our engineers have spent countless hours perfecting this top-secret, state-of-the-art facility in order to house our most ambitious project to date. We have uploaded DNA from dozens of our most remarkable subjects and distilled the essence of their unique abilities. You stand in this room today because you have served us impeccably, need I say, loyally. Now it is time for you to become so much more. Your first time in the Animus will be disorienting. A few of you will panic. To adjust, focus on your training program. Some of you will be in teams protecting or desyncing a VIP, but most of you will be on your own. Be ready to receive assassination contracts while being targeted simultaneously. We feel it keeps you on your toes. Once you enter these machines and the transfer is complete, you will have the skills necessary to crush the remnants of the Assassin Order, ending this war once and for all. Any questions? Good. Let's begin.
Next, we're showing you an early version of the final cutscene of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, once again courtesy of ZW2. This is the pretty well-known final cutscene where Edward is back in London at the Theatre Royal or Royal Opera House with his two kids Jennifer and Haytham, and its early version is only different for a few missable details here and there. Let's see if you can spot them and then mention them in the comments.
Miss Jennifer Kenway, may I introduce myself?
Jennifer Scott, if you please.
I'm sorry,
My daughter was raised by her mother, Caroline, until she passed away some years ago. Jenny prefers to use her surname to mine.
Please forgive my ignorance.
I will. She may not.
Father, help me!
This little rascal, however, is a Kenway. What's wrong, Haytham?
I can't see the stage.
Up we go. How's that?
Fine, but won't your arms tire?
Hey, I'm not so old as that. But if they do, then we shall quit this posh gig and go and meet your mother for some chocolate at White's. How's that sound?
Yes, please.
Okay, hush now.
Miss Jennifer Kenway, may I introduce myself?
Jennifer Scott, if you please.
I'm sorry,
My daughter was raised by her mother, Caroline, until she passed away some years ago. Jenny prefers to use her surname to mine.
Please forgive my ignorance.
I will. She may not.
Father, help me!
This little rascal, however, is a Kenway. What's wrong, Haytham?
I can't see the stage.
Up we go. How's that?
Fine, but won't your arms tire?
Hey, I'm not so old as that. But if they do, then we shall quit this posh gig and go and meet your mother for some chocolate at White's. How's that sound?
Yes, please.
Okay, hush now.
As we mentioned earlier, there has been a time where the Assassin's Creed 1 developers considered having a co-op multiplayer side to the game. The information has been shared over the years mostly by two developers who have both left Ubisoft by now, that is Julien Merceron, a former Ubisoft technical director, and Philippe Bergeron, who worked as mission director on several Assassin's Creed games, including the first Assassin's Creed and Valhalla. In 2013, Bergeron stated in an interview with the now defunct official Xbox magazine that the team had considered having a big co-op component in the game before creating Desmond's story and the concept of the Animus, but because of those story constraints and because the engine couldn't support it, it apparently became too hard to do. More specifically, Bergeron stated there was no way to reconcile having multiplayer or co-op in an ancestor's memories. Your ancestor lived his life in a certain way, so assuming you had branching storylines, it creates a paradox. It didn't fit. Right, branching storylines would create paradoxes and wouldn't fit, so... Anyway, 2 years later, in 2015, Julien Merceron, the former technical director at Ubisoft, during a presentation revealed that Assassin's Creed shipped in 2007 with a bug that allowed players to potentially discover a co-op multiplayer mode, or at least part of it. Apparently the bug, which Merceron at the time didn't know if it had been patched or not, made it so that at some point, if a second controller was plugged into the console, a second assassin would appear on screen, and the reason for that bug to appear was that the team hadn't even tested those features and thought they had been disabled. Now, I'm not sure if there are any videos of this actually happening, but it surprises to see that multiplayer only came 3 years after AC1 with AC Brotherhood, and co-op appeared in Assassin's Creed only with Assassin's Creed Unity 7 years later. And finally, we have the first of many details about Assassin's Creed 3 that we may explore in the future thanks to Kyriatsu, who was able to get hold of a pre-E3 demo of the game and did a huge research and documentation work on what she was able to find, especially for what concerns the differences with the retail version of the game, and of course you can find a link to her work in the description as well. In this video specifically, we're having a look at the mission, the Braddock Expedition, from the early stages of the game, where Haytham Kenway is about to kill Edward Braddock, his sort of rival within the Templar Order, to make it short, and he's about to do it with the help of Kanye Tio, the Mohawk woman with whom he's going to have a brief romantic relationship that will lead to the birth of their son Radon Hagedon, aka Connor. At this point in the story, they have a deal. Haytham will help the local tribes get liberated from Braddock, and in exchange, Tio will lead him to the cave of the Isu Grand Temple. In the game, the mission starts with Haytham reaching Tio, who has gathered members of several tribes in order to stop Braddock on his track, with Haytham asking, "What would you have me do?" and Tio answering, "We will help the others to prepare." But the next scene already has them ready to attack Braddock. Instead, Kyriatsu showed that in one of the early versions of the game, there were a few missions in between that had since been cut, where Haytham would have actually helped Tio and the other members of the tribes, and of course keep in mind that this version of the game wasn't finished, so you'll see all kinds of unusual and unexpected things.
Dio says that you are to be trusted. I hope her faith in you is not misplaced.
What do you require?
There is a cart close by that I wish to fill with gunpowder. You will help me with this.
In the first of these cut missions, Haytham was meant to load a cart with gunpowder barrels, and by the way, we can see here some of the various original names planned for Kanye Tio, like Arisawe and a more affectionate Kani.
Hello, friend.
Dio said you'd have work for me.
We mean to hide ourselves in the trees and surprise the bulldog with musket fire from above. But the woods are thick with his scouts. You must keep them away from us.
Lead on.
The second cut mission would have Haytham kill some guards to help protect the area where they would ambush Braddock, and as you'll see, the third mission supposedly required Haytham to cut some wood in order to prepare some barricades.
How might I serve? I'm not quite sure I follow. Do you speak English?
He speaks no language because he has no tongue. Your kind took it from him.
For what reason?
There was none. We need your help to help us cut down some trees to build a barricade.
Of course.
The woodcutting wasn't in Kuriatsu's build, indicating that it was likely present in an even earlier version of the game, as she reported. So now you can see how that line about helping for the preparations was kept in the game, because originally it implied much more. Anyway, after these cut preparations, Haytham was meant to meet with Theo with another dialogue that was cut, where she would find out and accuse him that he was going to take pleasure in Braddock's kill and that his motivations weren't necessarily aligning with hers. Here you can have a look at all the subtitles, because sadly the dialogue wasn't voiced yet in this build. This is an interesting dialogue because it was meant to be a prompt for the monologue we are about to listen to, where Haytham will explain to Theo how he feels about assassinating people. But we're not quite there yet. This is where the early build merges with the retail version we are used to. Braddock and Washington reach the area, Haytham gets his redcoat disguise, he chases Braddock through the gunpowder carts and barricades that he was meant to help build, his horse is shot by Washington, and finally he assassinates Braddock. After this scene, in the final version of the game, Haytham says he's done his part and now wants Theo to take him to the Grand Temple, but in the early version of the game, it was meant to be much deeper. This is where we can finally see Haytham's cut monologue, with him finally answering to Theo's accusations from early on.
It's done. You accused me of taking pleasure in this, of desiring death. But the alacrity, it's how I make the act acceptable. I detach myself from it and silence the voice of dissent, the voice of morality. I was born to kill, you see. Quite literally. Raised in an order of assassins. Death. It's not simply something that I do. It's who I am. But I did not come all this way to reflect and regret. No, I have upheld my part of the bargain. I expect that you will honor yours.
Follow me.
So this was one of Haytham's monologues or dialogues that were cut from the game, and one that I really enjoyed to see, because even if it's not canon, it adds, or shall I say, would have added even more depth to the character. Oh, and if you were wondering whether the Grand Temple door would look different in the early version of the game, well, it wasn't quite there yet. And that's it for the first episode of ATA Untold Memories, our new series dedicated to what was thought or meant to be, but didn't. So what are your opinions about what we showed? Are there more cut or alternative elements that you would like us to show and discuss in the coming episodes? Which are the games you would like us to discuss the most? Let us know in the comments below. One such example of content that was considered and then abandoned was the existence of the hidden 12 Isu that were meant to appear in Assassin's Creed Origins, and if you'd like to know more about that, you can check the video you are seeing on screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.